Hi everybody, Gary here with RoXolid Studios to share something with you that's been 12 years in the making. Back in 2003, I was one of the group of people that helped start Maplegate Media. You might know them better as the creative minds behind RC Driver magazine. Now, one of the cool things for that first issue was we had a blank slate. We could do whatever we wanted. We weren't stuck to our particular format. We wanted something that was going to be family friendly, it was going to be fun, and it was going to bring not only RC to all of you, but also combine some full-scale motorsports. And for the first two issues, I was lucky enough to get a hold of 2002 NASCAR Winston Cup champion, Tony Stewart. And the cool thing about Smoke was the fact that he had just recently won not only the Winston Cup championship in 2002, but he had also recently purchased an RC company. You may know now that he bought Custom Works RC, a dirt oval RC company. Well, he's taken Custom Works RC from where it was, just the sky's been the limits since he has taken over. In this interview, we sat down with him. It was the Wednesday before the Winston in May of 2003 to kind of get his ideas on how he got involved in the world of RC, how it crossed over between full scale and RC, and even asked him some embarrassing questions. Take a listen.
How exactly did you get started in RC?
A friend of mine in Columbus, Indiana, him and his father were involved in it, and he talked me into saving some yard mowing money, and I bought, my first car was a grasshopper.
Oh, yeah?
And messed around with that thing, and they held a race at a local skating rink on the wood floor, and went there, and he was telling me how they had silicone tires and this and that. I didn't know anything about road cars and had never even seen road cars at the time, but showed up at this race, and they had an amateur class, and I ran my grasshopper in it, and but watched all these other cars and how high tech they were, and I was racing go-karts at the time, and so to see something, and I already knew about racing from that side of it, from the go-kart side, but to see the technology that, obviously a grasshopper was pretty cool for running around the house, but
Sure.
to see these on-road cars and see how they were built, it was like, wow, this is really cool. So that's really what got me started in the RC racing industry.
Okay. Was it mostly like the early 12Is and stuff like that, or was it more like conversions for RC10s?
It was more so conversions at the time.
Okay.
But then, as time went on, got to see, some of the first, LTO chassis. I mean, I guess I had already been racing a little while before the first LTO came out, but a buddy of mine and I had actually, in my opinion, built the first LTO car that we had seen in Indiana. We took I guess it was not necessarily a full-scale blueprint, but took a drawing of somebody's chassis that was the chassis built in Indiana, and we asked the guy if he'd let us mess with it a little bit, and we took his drawing and made the first LTO car out of it. And we didn't even make it out of graphite. We made it out of 2 fiberglass sheets that we screwed together. We just took a theory that we had and took spare parts off of other cars and built this thing, and it was fast. And then about that time, that's when all the major manufacturers started coming out with LTO cars. So
You still have that car?
Yeah, somewhere. I know we've got it because I was showing somebody it about 2 years ago, so I know it's in a box somewhere.
Jeez. That'd be interesting to take a peek at.
The material we used was actually material that we used for a floor pan on a go-kart. It was an under tray.
Okay.
And it was too thin to use. It didn't have enough stiffness as one sheet, so we made 2 pieces and used little bitty screws and screwed it together.
How old were you?
That's how we made our first chassis. Yeah, that's how we made our first chassis.
How old were you when you were doing that?
Probably 14.
Okay. For the most part, we've seen you pop up at dirt oval races around the country, and then there's even pictures from Snowbirds of this last year with you talking with Dieter down there too. What other classes are you really involved in?
Really, it's just the dirt oval stuff right now. I mean, I have ran a couple 4-cell mod races this year on carpet. Ran at Sand Hills earlier this year, but really my main focus has always been on the dirt oval stuff once I met the Landgrafs out there.
Yeah, I've met Brian before. He has actually been out to a track. It's not here anymore, but a track that was out this way, and good people.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's one of my best friends now, actually.
Now, what prompted the move to purchase Custom Works?
Well, Brian and I've known Brian and Jerry since '94, and how I met them, I was in Bakersfield running a USAC midget for a guy named Larry Brown, and some buddies of mine. I just bought my first Custom Works car, and had bought the Enforcer and was going out to California. And they said, "We got to take your cars out with you because they run a lot of dirt oval stuff out there." And we didn't have any dirt oval stuff in Indiana really. There were a couple of little tracks, but they ran pin spikes. They didn't run any hard pack dirt. And so I took my car out there, and I'd had some trouble getting it going well, and noticed that they were in Bakersfield. So I called them and asked if I could come over one day, and met them. And they didn't know me from Adam, but were really nice to me. And I didn't tell them what I was in town for, but as time went on, we got to be closer friends. And I think the third day that I went over there in a row, I told them why I was in town, or they finally asked why I was in town, and told them I was racing a midget for a local guy in town, and they knew him. So then it was kind of like an association from that standpoint. It's developed into a friendship where they're actually they're family to me. I mean, Brian's one of my very best friends in the world, and Jerry's like a second father to me. So that's how I got started with them. But it's when I came out, I got hooked. I mean, they took me to a local track in Bakersfield, and Brian came out and helped me, and I've been hooked on dirt oval ever since.
Okay. Do you have much input? I mean, now, how long have you driven Custom Works cars?
Well, since '94.
Okay. How much input have you had since you've really come on board with them, worked with them, and raced with them? Have you had as far as either chassis design changes, geometry changes, anything like that?
To be honest, as far as changes have gone, the only thing I did, it was my idea to do a new sprint car hood finally, a more current hood, like they run with the World of Outlaws nowadays, that we built 2 years ago. But the longer I spent with Brian and Jerry, I realized how smart, how good a designer Jerry Landgraf is at building cars, and how most of the stuff that we have there it's old designs, but it's designs that people that are new in the industry that have tried building cars still can't build a car that can outrun ours right now. And that's kind of where my involvement started with them. But the purchase of I guess I kind of skipped over your question or got off track there. Your question about how I purchased the company. We got in a situation where I came up with the idea to do the new hood, and they really hadn't had any new products. And their Custom Works originally was car interiors, custom street rods and this and that, as far as doing the interiors on cars. And Jerry had started doing that again because the RC side had slowed down a little bit. And for Brian and Jerry to do that, they were taking time away from the RC side. And I said, they had mentioned possibly selling the company, and different people had come and gone, and I finally got concerned because I thought, I really am passionate about this company and about the product they build, and I know Jerry as a person, I know Brian as a person. I know that if somebody bought the company and started producing new products, and the integrity of the company wasn't what it was when Brian and Jerry sold it, it would kill them. So I finally just got to the conclusion that I'll buy the company. I'll keep Jerry and Brian involved. That way the integrity of customers can still be the way it has always been, and something they can still be proud of down the road, but not necessarily have to have ownership in anymore. So it's a hobby that I really love, and it's an excuse now for me to have new projects. I mean, we've got a lot of neat ideas. I've spent a lot of money in the last 4 months buying computer programs and stuff that Jerry's really had a passion to do some new products, just that didn't have the time and the resources to do it. So now that they're not having to do the day-to-day operations of it, it gives them a little more freedom to do their car company stuff during the day, and in the evening give Jerry some flexibility to draw some new products, which he's really enjoying. So it's kind of brought a new life to the company.
And what besides the hood scoop, and actually think I saw that online yesterday. I checked out the website. Anything new that you can kind of give us a foreshadowing on that's coming up from Custom Works?
I know we're looking forward to. We're going to try to build a new gearbox car. The gearbox classes are very popular now in Dirt Oval, it seems like, with the EDM classes. So I think our our first project that we're really going to try to take is building a new gearbox car. So that's something that I'm excited to get going on here once we get the company moved and get the day-to-day operations out of Bakersfield to where they have time to start doing that.
I know one of the going to when I was running Dirt Oval 2, one of the fastest cars I ever saw in the gearbox class was someone had taken, if you remember the old 6-gear low-C transmission that was out there.
Uh-huh.
Basically bolted in backwards on an Intimidator chassis, and the car was unbeatable.
Yeah.
I mean, it helped too that they had a good driver behind the wheel, but the car was definitely hooked up. What cars and trucks do you have in your stable right now? Obviously, you've got a big lot of Custom Works cars. Anything else that you've got that stands out?
I've got a couple associated. What's the on-road car there? Their oval car.
The oval car. They just released the 10L4 SS.
Nope, that's not the one. I got the one before that. The one that won the Snowbird 2 years ago.
That would have been the 10L3 then.
Okay, that's what I've got.
Okay.
I've got one of those right now.
How much chassis-wise have you noticed translates from one car to the other, such as anything that you found on your full-scale cars that have helped you setup-wise on the RC cars, and even something vice versa that you've experimented with RC-wise that you've thought, you know what, this may work on a full-scale application?
Well, it's a little different because the driver can't, the guy that's driving an RC car can't ride in the RC car to feel what it's doing. So you have to, the way you drive it and the way the car has to be set up to be able to get it going right, it's a little bit different because you just can't feel it that early. But it's been kind of neat. I mean, some of the theories that we've used on full-scale cars have been just the opposite, have worked just the opposite effect on RC cars at times. And sometimes they work exactly the way they do on a full-scale car. So, but it's fun to see the technology changing. I mean, to go there and see how you can take your battery packs and move them left to right to change your left to right percentage and move batteries forward and backward and change the nose wave percentage. It's a lot of fun to watch how those cars react to those changes, just like they do a big car. You're just doing everything in just very, very small amounts and increments and changes. So, for me, it's a lot of fun to sit there and go play around with stuff and seeing how the shock technology is coming around in these cars now. And how we did some stuff at the Custom Works race last year with some new shocks that we'd never run before. I finally talked Brian into running. We were able to really get the car driving with them. So it's fun to take new ideas like that we've somewhat had an idea from full-scale racing to try it on the 10-scale racing at the same time.
Now, obviously, with your busy schedule, you don't get to race as much as you'd like.
Sure.
And I know, again, reading on the webpage from the Krenzel, Pennsylvania race in 2001, where you ran 7 classes, made the A and 6, won 3, I think is what it was. Anyone that you've really turned to besides the land grabs in the industry that have been crucial to your success?
Well, I met Rob Cutman through the land grabs, and when I met Rob, he was actually working at Trinity, and so I got a lot of influence through Rob, and then the first real track that I ran outside of Bakersfield was at Kranzel's in Pennsylvania, and their family was always especially with Brian's open wheel race there, they always worked around my schedule to help me be able to come and participate in that, and to run a big race like that and to kind of schedule it around my schedule was something I was always very appreciative of. So being able to run tracks like that and meet families like the Kranzels, and last year we moved the race to Virginia and ran at Cooper's RC. Norris Cooper and his family were great people, and the thing that's a common denominator there is we all have a passion for RC, we all have a passion for Dirt Oval, but the people that you meet there are genuinely nice people, and it makes it a lot of fun. Whether you have a good weekend racing or not, you have fun. And for me to be able to get time off to go do that, I mean, that's my number one goal when I go, is to have a good time. And win, lose, or draw, every time I've gone to an RC race, I've had fun doing it.
Have you found it more difficult to do that with your success that you've had coming up and being a more identifiable individual that, you walk into a door in a hobby shop and you just want to come in and race, and you've got to spend, X amount of time signing autographs or talking to fans and things like that before you actually get to do what you walked in the door intending to do?
Actually, the neat thing is most of the people understand that I'm there to race and don't bother us with the autographs too much. They let us just come in and race, and they'll come up and talk to you. And I'll spend hour after hour talking to people. But to take time to sign autographs is sometimes tough in an RC race, considering you're trying to work on a car. But you can work on your car and talk to people all day long. So I enjoy doing that. It's neat to meet different people and hear their story about their home track that they race at, or the different divisions that they've run, and it makes it a lot of fun for us because it's their only opportunity a lot of times to keep that close to a Winston Cup driver. So I don't mind taking the time to talk to them, but I'm very competitive. And even though it's RC racing and the fact that I'm a Winston Cup driver, when I go to an RC race, I'm there to try to win the race. So, I carry some of that passion from the big track to the short track. And I think people kind of sense that, and they kind of know that, hey, I know we want to probably talk to him about his Winston Cup stuff, but at the same time, he's here trying to win the same race we're trying to win. So they kind of let me be and let me do my thing. And they treat me as just one of the guys most of the time.
It's got to be, for you at least, a kind of nice return to a real life, so to speak, where you don't have all the glitz and glam then, where you can feel just like one of the guys.
Yeah, it's about as close as I can get for the most part. I mean, to go racing. So, it's something that's, like you say, it's not very easy to do in this day and age, considering, 7 days a week you can turn on the TV and probably see me on one of the racing shows somewhere along the line. So, to be with good people like that are willing to let you be yourself and let you enjoy your racing, it's a lot of fun to hang out with those guys.
What drivers have you competed against, like any of the big names in the RC industry, or anyone that you'd really like to have the opportunity to go, you know what, I see him in the magazine, I think I can beat him?
Well, it was kind of neat. I'd never met Brian Kenwald, and I didn't even get to meet him at Snowbirds, but I got to see him there, and I got to watch him during practice, which is the first time I'd ever seen him drive live.
He's phenomenal to watch.
I mean, it was unbelievable to watch his car control, but, a guy that comes to mind when I started with Rob Cutman and those guys, Frank Palomito was racing RC cars, and he had talked to me about wanting to drive real race cars one day, and how much of it was his dream to do that. Just last night picked up a racing paper, the Area Auto News, that covers the Northeast, and saw he won a modified race at Wall Stadium. And that's not an easy place to win at. So he started in full scale, started with his RC racing, and I watched how meticulous he was with how he was building and working on his cars, and the detail that he put into all of his changes, and how he did everything, and thought, man, if this kid has any driving talent at all behind the steering wheel, he's going to be a great driver. And in 3 short years now, he's went from running his first micro race to running modifieds and winning at Wall Stadium. So it was neat to see somebody come from the RC industry and make it as a real race car driver away from it.
That's pretty cool. Have you ever had a time where you guys get together, say you've got an off week or something like that, and say, you know what, let's get our stuff and let's go racing together, and just beat and bang on each other?
A lot of times, how that all came about with the Winston Cup drivers is, we all, during the race weekends, kind of live in we call it the trailer park, but it's with buses, and it's a secured lot each week to where, we have, time at the end of the day to do stuff, but nobody really wants to leave the racetrack. So guys were buying T-Maxes and running them in the parking lot there. And next thing you know, started with a couple, and then next thing you know, there's 8 or 10 of us that had them. So then the bug kind of spread. I mean, then guys were buying gas cars that were road cars instead of trucks, and none of us really are at the racetrack not real serious about it. It's more just to have something to do at the end of the day. But we get to race with each other and have fun, and somebody's always got a spare part that you need. So I don't think it really translates on the weekends like what I do with the dirt oval racing, but it's at least a way to get these guys started in RC. And I know a lot of the crew guys on the circuit. I know Sean Parker, who's now the crew chief on Dale Jarrett's car. He ran at Cooper's with us last year in the gas sprint class. I can't remember the guy. Who's the guy that used to work for Warren Burton that races RC? Chris Hussey. Chris Hussey races RC also. So there's a lot of guys in Winston Cup racing that do participate and race in the RC industry, not just drivers.
Now, you talked a little bit earlier about innovations and things like that have changed since you've gotten involved in it, and you actually got in about the same time I did, about 94. One of the things that I've seen now is the Novak brushless system that's come out. Have you had a chance to run that at all yet?
What is it again?
Novak's got a new brushless motor setup.
I heard about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I heard about it when it was being developed, but I hadn't seen it. Is it a finished product now?
It's a finished product now. I know they had Novak held an open test. I'd say about 6 months ago now for basically the guys from the magazines, and they let them all try it. And you're obviously familiar with Tamiya, right?
Sure.
Out at their facility, the week before the 500, they went ahead and they actually ran a 4-hour endurance race. And they were using the Novak brushless system, the team that won. Tyree Phillips, God, who else was on that team? I believe Charlie Schwanka from it was the first 3 or 4 teams that won, or that finished in the top 3 were all running the brushless system. So it's odd if you think when we started back, if you told someone you were running a 12-turn motor, you were wondering how this person was going to hang on to it. Now we've got guys running 6-turn motors with coat hanger wire in there and brushless systems. It's scary to think how fast these cars have gotten.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it just shows that the thing with full-scale racing is a lot of the drivers aren't shock engineers or chassis engineers, where guys in the RC industry, there's some guys that have people work on their cars. Granted, when I go, Brian's up on his product and up on the cars that I drive, so, I tell Brian what I want changed. Now you have some input on what I want to do, but Brian knows that car better than anybody, so I let Brian work on the car and make the changes and make sure everything's right, and it gives me just the chance to spend time with people and talk and just drive. But you go to, when I went to Snowbirds, you watch these guys, and, when they pull their car off the track, they go back and they're the ones working on it. They're the ones making the chassis adjustment. And to be able to be up on the technology like they are, and then go out there and drive those things, it gives you a high respect for the guys that are really, really good in this industry.
Speaking of wrenching on your rides, you ever let Zippy take a wrench to your cars?
No, not the RC car. He bought an E-Max, I think, but Zippy's kind of one of those guys that he's so busy with the Winston Cup stuff that we're pretty realistic in knowing that, hey, this is something that's different than the normal field that we run in. And yeah, it has 4 wheels and tires on it, but they drive different. How their setup is different, and he just pretty much plugs it in and plays with it.
Do you ever find yourself using terminology from the RC world in full-scale racing, like talking about, I'm this far off of TQ, or this guy hacked me, or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we always end up taking the lingo that we use at the open wheel race, and it's what we use for all the open wheel races in the winter. We go to the Chili Bowl, and we always play pick the hack and everything else, so it's not uncommon. People look at you like, what are they talking about? Which is kind of fun, because you can be talking about a guy as a hack or a mixer, and he doesn't even know what you're talking about, but you go to an RC race and you mention a hack or a mixer there, and everybody knows what you're talking about, so it makes it fun.
Now, speaking of hacking, we've all been on the receiving end. We've all been on the giving end. What's the worst hack you've ever given and received?
Well, I guess I was the hack on the start of the A-Main at Kranzel's in the EDM class about 3 years ago. I was TQ and was more nervous getting ready for the A-Main than I've ever been in a Winston Cup car getting ready to start a race. And the buzzer went off, and I squeezed the throttle just a little too hard and spun in front of the whole field, and all 8 cars in the A-Main were wrecked in the first 2 seconds of the race. And I think I ended up running 5th in the race by the time it was all said and done. But it's probably one of the most embarrassing moments I've had in RC.
Shifting gears just a little bit, who would you say has got the wildest ride right now in the Winston Cup garage?
Who's got the what?
The wildest ride as far as the most tricked out either truck or, something with the biggest engine or the fastest overall car? I hear Fatback's got a pretty wild T-Max out there.
Yeah, Fatback's got his T-Max is pretty bad. He's got some coin in it. I mean, it's all pimped out and everything. So I would say he's probably leading in that category right now.
If it were up to you to top him, what would you do?
Well, I wouldn't want to do it with a T-Max. I'd want to do it with one of our Custom Works cars. But,
right.
The gas sprint cars that we ran at Cooper's this year, they were pretty bad. They were just wicked fast and fun to drive. So probably go along that route.
You guys using .21s in those, or are you still around a .12, .15 for the engine size?
15 is what we ran.
Okay. Just the final things for closing too. Just a quick yes or no on these. This, first of all, I'm putting a disclaimer on this. This comes from the guys in the ivory towers at the magazine. This is not me.
Okay.
First of all, they want to know boxers or briefs.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not.
Oh my lord. Boxers.
Okay. Burger King or McDonald's?
McDonald's.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Movies that come out. American Pie. There you go. We'll use that. American Pie.
Miller, Coors, or Bud?
Miller, Corona. Heck with those.
Corona. Cerveza, por favor.
You got it.
Now, we've all kind of seen the Stacker 2 ads.
Uh-huh.
Now, the big show cannot be an answer to this question.
Okay.
Who is your favorite wrestler current and all time?
Who's my favorite wrestler? Stone Cold Steve Austin? Yeah, Steve Austin's pretty tough. But I think Hulk Hogan's still got to get it for the all-time deal. He's weathered the test of time, I think.
And care to make a prediction for Indy?
For Indy?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Too many good cars there to predict.
Okay.
They just want to know who to bet on for that deal.
Well, you would be the guy with the inside information on that.
Not really. I haven't been down there this year. I went one day to the Speedway, and I didn't even go in the track. We've got a suite in Turn 2, and we sat out there and ate and drank and sat on the patio there, which is about 10 feet away from the catch fence in Turn 2, and watched them qualify. We just hung out, so...
You know, I do want to really thank you for your time. I realize how important your time is.
We're passionate about RC racing. I mean, when they said, "Oh, this is for an RC magazine," I was like, "Cool, let's call it first." But we had 2 other interviews we had to do first for the real jobs. So.
That's fine. And you know, what I'm hoping too is, do you mind if we call you throughout the year too, just to touch base, see how things are going with, both the full size and the RC stuff?
Yeah, just get in touch with Mike and if we've got some openings in our schedule, I don't mind doing that at all.
Oh, that's awesome, Tony. My goal for this was, you get asked so many monotonous questions throughout the day. Our goal for this was to get to talk to you about something that we know that you're passionate about too.
Yeah, that's why I was excited about it when he told me we had this lined up today. So
I do want to thank you for your time.
So there you have it, my interview with Tony Stewart, circa 2003, about his history in the world of RC. It was definitely a career highlight for me and something I will always cherish. I need to thank Greg Vogel from RC Driver Magazine. Not only did he give me a chance to help join the Maplegate Media and RC Driver family back in 2003, when I talked to him about the idea of going outbound with the audio for this interview, he was all for it. So thank you, Greg. Thanks, Maplegate Media, for allowing me the opportunity to make this happen. I also want to thank not only Tony Stewart, but Mike Arning, his publicist back in 2003, for being so accommodating in some challenging situations when he was in the middle of trying to win the Winston that week. Like I mentioned before the interview started, this was the Wednesday before. It's funny how you remember how things. It was the Wednesday before. It was about 2 in the afternoon. But again, thanks to Tony, Mike Arning, everyone with Custom Works RC for making this happen. Make sure that you follow Custom Works RC on the web, and make sure you follow us, RoXolid Studios, on the web. Like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Let us know what you think, what you want to see more of. We're pretty new on the web here with RoXolid Studios, so we are definitely taking requests at this point in time. You can also email us with any requests that you might have, comments, and questions at roxolidstudios@gmail.com. Thank you all for watching and listening. Thanks again to Tony, Greg, and Mike, and we'll see you soon.